Sacramento, California, born and raised. And Antelope is where I spend most of my days. Talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Keek on the mic, so you know you better bear down. Bear down. Bear down.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Like always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So another interesting conversation to have here on Keek on the Mic as a report out of Chicago is this. Justin Fields' drive described as infectious to Bears locker room. Obviously, this is something that we've talked a lot about here on the podcast, a lot during this offseason about how Justin Fields' grind and work ethic has been noticed, not only by coaches, but teammates of the organization. And this is obviously good to hear. And the reason why this is so interesting to me, and the reason why I kind of keep bringing this up is because of one, that's good news. That means he's willing to do everything in his power to become great, put his team on his back, right, and get the Bears where they need to be. And obviously, coming into year two, Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus need to see, right, that progression from Justin Fields. They need to see him take that step forward, right, in order to hopefully move forward with him as that franchise quarterback. We all know that Justin Fields is the franchise guy, hopefully, but I think the coaches and Ryan Poles want to see that constant progression in order to basically make him that long-term guy for the Chicago Bears. And the reason why this is going to be so interesting conversation today on the podcast is because when you look at last season under Matt Nagy, and I know I'm bringing up Matt Nagy once again, but this is going to be a really good topic on today's podcast, so listen closely. When you look at last season, one of the issues that Justin Fields had under the Matt Nagy era, right? And obviously he had a lot of issues under Matt Nagy. I feel like he didn't develop right under Matt Nagy, right? Matt Nagy didn't help him at all, right, as an offensive play caller. But one of the big things that Justin Fields took away was the whole leadership situation. I think he knew that he was the first round pick of the Chicago Bears, and he knew that he was the future of the Chicago Bears at quarterback. But Matt Nagy swore up and down that Andy Dalton was the starter, and that made things confusing for Justin Fields about who was supposed to lead the team. Yeah, because we made Andy Dalton the starter last year, but there was never any word of like who was going to be a leader of the team. And usually when you name a guy the starting quarterback, that's the leader of the team. But it was just still confusing about what role he wanted Justin Fields to be for the Chicago Bears. Because I think Justin Fields wanted to be the leader right away. He wanted to try to take reins right away. And usually when you trade up for a guy, and he was number 11 overall, he expected to hopefully come in right away and try to help contribute to this Chicago Bears football team. So obviously this made things a little bit worse for Justin Fields when Andy Dalton went down week 2 against the Cincinnati Bengals with that knee injury. So basically Justin Fields was thrusted into the starting position, and obviously he struggled. It showed in his play, not only in that Cincinnati game, but you can go back to that Cleveland Browns game where he was unprepared due, obviously, to Matt Nagy's doings of not really clarifying who that leader was. He kept going back and forth, right? And it made things really, really confusing for Justin Fields, and that's why Justin Fields is so excited about this new regimen led by Matt Eberflus, right? Coming in, and now he knows he's the unquestioned starter at the quarterback position for the Chicago Bears, and he's the unquestioned leader for this Chicago Bears football team. And he knows that he is now the leader of the team, and that's good news. And now he knows his position and his place and what is expected of him, not only on the field, but off the field as well. And this is the cool thing. The cool thing about this situation for Justin Fields is that teammates have already noticed the difference. Obviously, last year he was confused about his position of the team, if he was supposed to be that leader or what. It was just very, very confusing for Justin Fields. But now there's no confusion at all, right? And like I said, teammates have noticed the difference in Justin Fields this year, and one of those teammates has been Velus Jones. And the rookie wide receiver knew Justin Fields was talented before becoming a Chicago Bear, but he didn't realize how crazy his work ethic actually was. And I think Justin Fields kind of took a step up in that work ethic when he finally knew that he was the unquestioned starter, right? He had that work ethic still last year, but I think he kind of took a step up when it was finally, all right, we have faith in you. You are the unquestioned starter for this football team. And I think once he heard that, he definitely took off, and it's definitely been noticed by a bunch of his Chicago Bears teammates. And Velus Jones, while on the Sick podcast with Adam Rank, Velus Jones shared how motivating it is to see that kind of intensity from the team leader being Justin Fields. And obviously, like I said, we have talked a lot about Justin Fields and his insane work ethic over the offseason. And I truly stand on my claim that I truly feel that this work ethic will help Justin Fields improve and exceed in the future. Obviously, I understand everyone works hard, right, in the NFL, but it takes a very special guy to have that consistent drive. And I'm not talking about just working hard. I'm talking about guys that will go to practice, and after practice, go to the film room, and then after the film room, go work out again. That is the type of guy that Justin Fields is. That's the type of work ethic that he's putting in, and that's the type of work ethic that guys like Velus Jones, guys like Darnell Mooney, even Matt Eberflus is noticing the type of work ethic that Justin Fields is putting in for the Chicago Bears football team. And not everyone has that work ethic, right? Like I said, it takes a very special guy, and everything Justin Fields is done this offseason is more than 100%. He's putting in 200% to take his game to the next level. He understands that he is under that pressure. And I know that we've talked about on this podcast before that Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus just want to see little progressions, baby steps, right? They understand that he's learning a new offense under Luke Getsy. He understands a new regimen. But Justin Fields has higher expectations for himself. That's why he is going above and beyond to try to become great. And like I mentioned, while other players arrive and leave Hallis Hall, Fields stays and puts in the extra work. Like, once again, he goes to the film room, then goes back and does another workout, goes back to the film room, then goes to the field, maybe throws some routes with some of his receivers, some of his tight ends, right? He's constantly working, and that's what Velus Jones is talking about, right? It's infectious. When you see a guy putting in that much work, it makes you want to put in that extra work, right? So he's motivating his other teammates around him, which is a really good thing, because then that creates more chemistry between his new teammates, right? And his old teammates as well. So this is really good news for a young Chicago Bears football team that is currently in rebuilding mode. And all Justin Fields is doing is setting the tone for his football team. He's setting that expectation, setting that bar for his other teammates. And like I said, that's going to push his other teammates to be great as well. And obviously, when you look about this season, going forward this season for the Chicago Bears, there's a lot of people saying that the Bears won't be very good this year, or they lost too much talent in the offseason, which are both possibly true statements, right? We don't know what to expect from the Chicago Bears football team. We have a new regimen, a new GM, a new offensive coordinator, right? A new defensive coordinator. Everything's new players. So we don't know what to expect from the Chicago Bears football team. But the thing I like about Justin Fields in this situation is that Fields has no plans to accept that reality. He's going to put his head down and maintain that constant work ethic to try to be the best version of himself and try to make his teammates around him better. And he already has stated many times that he feels that the Bears have more than enough talent that they get credit for, right? And that's just his personal opinion, and his job is to ensure that everybody is putting in that time and effort, and he knows that it starts with him. And that's a big thing about him finally getting handed the keys as the unquestioned starter and being the leader of the team, that he understands that it starts with him. So he understands, once again, that if he puts in that extra work, that constant work ethic, that his teammates, his coaches will notice that, which they have, and they will work harder. And at the end of the day, that means, hopefully at the end of the day, you have a better football team. And when you look at a good leader, the mark of a good leader is showing everybody that you are willing to do everything necessary to win, and putting in that constant grind. And that's what separates guys like Tom Brady. Tom Brady, same thing. Constant work ethic. Why do you think Tom Brady is so great? Because he goes to practice, then he goes to film study, then he goes back and practices some more, goes to the weight room, goes back to film study. It's constant, right? Think about it. The dude retired and then came back, right? That shows a guy that just can't give it up. That's a guy that has that constant work ethic, right? And I truly feel that Justin Fields has that same work ethic. And I understand that people may sit here and say that work ethic can only take you so far. I kind of disagree. I think if you have that infectious, constant grind, it will take you the extra mile. And we understand that Justin Fields wants to be great. He wants to be like Tom Brady, right? And we can all say, saying it is one thing. I understand that. Talking is cheap. But his action so far shows his willingness to wanting to be great, wanting to be the best version of himself. So Justin Fields is giving me every indication that he will, in fact, take that next jump. And I just love talking about this because it's just so good to see that Justin Fields is taking this opportunity, right? And he's not taking it for granted. And he wants to be the leader of this football team, and he wants to make this football team a whole lot better. And that just makes me so excited for the future of this organization. It makes me excited to see what he can do as early as this season under that new scheme of Luke Getsy. I know a lot of people may take that against him, saying, well, he's learned a new system, but this system actually fits his skill set. So I'm really, really excited to see what Justin Fields does, not only this season, but as the future unquestioned starter at the quarterback position for the Chicago Bears. So we'll see what happens. Like always, I'm super excited to see what happens this season. Before I let you guys go, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, I'll be back for our all-new Bears podcast right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You can go